Hello everybody, welcome back to Commonwealth Flipper. Welcome to the cabin. Today is going to be, finally, for some of you out there, the day that I talk about the conversation that I was able to have with eBay. And first of all, nobody has a conversation with eBay. eBay's not one person. eBay is a giant corporation. I think we all know this. And there's different people in charge of different things. However, I was able to speak to the, what's the title? Senior Vice President and General Manager of eBay. And I'm going to go over some things that were said in the conversation, but I first want to hit a little bit of context first. If you happen to have not seen the video from a week or so ago where I went over this in detail, I just wanted to clarify for some folks out there, I have never received a dime from eBay. Never. Not one single dime, outside of reselling, obviously, the normal process of selling things and getting money. I've never received a plane ticket, an invite to anything. I've never even spoken to anybody with any kind of position whatsoever in the 22 years, now 21 years I've been reselling, up until very, very recently. And some people believe me, some people don't. I can't control that. If you want to ask my bookkeeper, Jenna, if you're out there, you can tell anybody. You know I've never gotten a dime. So I want to clear that up. I did not have to sign an NDA. I was not asked to sign an NDA. I was told that I had basically an open forum to speak about whatever I wanted to. It did seem clear to me that there was at least some point to this conversation on eBay's end, of course, why I have a conversation with anybody unless there's a point, and I'll talk about that as well. But not only was I not asked to sign any of those things, do any of those things, I was given free rein to discuss anything that was discussed. Now, that should tell us a couple things. One is they're probably not going to get into great specificity of things that they don't want people to know if they're having an open conversation, and I wouldn't expect them to. But at the same time, they know I can say anything about the conversation that I want. I'm going to do my very best to keep it between the lines, if you will, and not put words in eBay's mouth, as I would hope that they wouldn't do to me. I have heard it said out there, a lot of folks have said, why did they speak to you? And I don't really have the answer to that. I wish I did. Listening to some conversations I've had from some people, it would be a question I think I would ask specifically. I guess I just assumed a few things going in. And to be honest with you, the way the conversation went kind of made me believe that those assumptions were actually correct. And I'll get to that in a minute. One thing I am 100% certain of, and those of you who watch this show for a long time, you know this, is that you're the reason that I spoke to them. It's not me. I'm no guru. I'm no eBay expert. I'm far from it, to be perfectly honest with you. I've been doing it a long time, and for somebody who's been doing it as long as me, I know surprisingly little about some things that a lot of you know a ton about. So to me, it wasn't about anything technical or specific. It was really about connecting with you out there. So my assumption is that it is in eBay's best interest at this point to begin to, well, I don't know about begin. I don't know where they're at in the process, and I can't read their minds, but this is an assumption. Pepper's at the door. The assumption is that I really think that eBay realizes, and I know this from the conversation, specific words in the conversation confirmed what I thought, which is eBay really does believe what makes it unique is the fact that this is a platform where you can find almost any unique item, unlike any other platform. And there's other similar platforms, but they're not quite like this, right? If you're gonna want to go out there and find these dolls right here, or that Rainbow Brite over there, if you ask anybody in the general public, if you had to find this item, where would you look first? The answer for decades has been eBay, and it probably still is for the great majority of people. And I know that eBay believes, right? eBay believes. I certainly know the person I talked to, Mr. Ireland, by the way, in case you want to know the name, he believes that that is one unique point of eBay that sets it apart from any other. And I believe that this conversation was started because in order for that to continue, they have to build bridges back, these are my words now, to the eBay sellers and the eBay products that set them apart. There are so many other places you can buy things online now. But eBay really, in my opinion, needs to hold on to that branding of this kind of stuff, even as they expand into all kinds of things like they have for decades. And I believe that that's the point of this conversation that we had. And I'm not going to sugarcoat things here. You know, I believe that over the last few years, maybe longer, it's just been a slow process where there's been a breakdown between what I'm going to call everyday mom and pop resellers like me and like most of you out there. And some of you are a lot more than that. And some of you are just extremely casual. But that relationship and that trust has taken some hits. And I think in recent months, I know this because I have access to so many people out there. I don't think people realize I get tons of stories every single day from people, whether it's in the comments, through email, through direct message, through whatever. And there's a common thread leading through a lot of them. And a lot of them I never saw before, and I started to see just over the last few months. So I decided to take this opportunity to not talk about the problems, I guess you want to call them problems, the issues that I've had in the last few months. I decided to only speak about those as they were similar and related to many different people who sent me messages over the last couple of months. And as it related to where I believe, it's not his words, where eBay could begin to, I don't know if mend fences is the right word, but to build relationships. Well, you know, a lot of people say this is just a PR campaign, it's just whatever. You want to know the truth? In my opinion, eBay needs a PR campaign with some of its resellers. And I don't mean just lip service PR. I mean real public relations, and to improve that side of this business tenfold. And I actually believe, call me naive if you want to, I think eBay knows that too. And I hope that this is the beginning of that. I don't know that. I'm not crossing my fingers and hoping, but I can tell you I'm choosing to live on the positive side of things. And there's a lot of folks out there who will watch this and you will leave terrible comments down below, and you have all the right to do that. You'll go on YouTube shows, you'll go into Reddit, wherever you're going to go, and you're going to say those things, and that's perfectly fine. And there's a lot of people out there that won't like me for saying some of the things I'm saying and call me a sellout, call me whatever. It doesn't bother me. I love reselling. And my intention is to do anything and everything to protect this kind of reselling for not just me. My selfish interest is about me. But at the same time, it's really trying to protect this business, this type of business that gives me autonomy and freedom and security to some degree, and to protect it for as long as possible. I'm not wedded to eBay. I don't care. I get excited. When I sell something on Poshmark, it gets me excited. If I sell something on Bonanza, it gets me excited. Mercari, wherever I sell it, doesn't make a difference. What not? It doesn't make a difference. I want to protect the ability to do what we're doing for a long, long time. And I believe that partnering with eBay, now I don't mean partnering with money and finances, but to find the place where eBay's best interest also lines up with our best interest and move there, because I fully expect eBay to work in its own best interest. And I expect everybody out there and myself to work in our own best interest. Sometimes they conflict, but I think we can find the places where they meet and we can work together. And when we see that publicly, public relations, I think it can begin to build back some of what I felt used to be there 15, 20 years ago. I want to talk about what I mean, and I told him specifically the way I used to feel about eBay and how I don't feel that way now, and where I think the specifics are why that is. And I'm going to go into detail about that here in just a second. I do want to first say what I did not talk about, and this will make a lot of people mad out there, but there's a reason why I didn't talk about it. I did not talk about eBay algorithms, search engines, SEO stuff, glitches, AI. I talked about AI as it related to another topic. I did not talk about those things, and that might surprise a lot of you. But here's why I didn't. Because I think this. I don't know this, but I think this. There are issues. If you are a seller on eBay and there's a likelihood that you have noticed a big difference over the last, I don't know, since the spring, let's say. And it's the word I see all the time is roller coaster. I see it all the time. But it's also my belief that it is in eBay's financial best interest to get all of that figured out. I think they're having great difficulty with it, but they're progressing. That's what I think. Now, that's debatable, and there certainly needs to be clarity, on this. There needs to be discussion and openness wherever possible so that people like me and you know where they're going. I don't want this to be a platform where you got to be a rocket scientist and dig into the data in order to be able to sell something. I don't want it to be a platform. We didn't talk about promoted listings either. I did say one thing, that obviously I don't like promoted listings. I like a level playing field, but it's also probably a genie that's not going back in the bottle. Let me give my right arm a break here for a second. I said before I went into this conversation with some healthy skepticism because, you know, who knows? Maybe it is a PR thing. Maybe it's, who knows what it is. And there was one thing that disarmed me a little bit that was encouraging. And that was at a certain point I was asked if I would help connect them with the people that I was talking about. And that reassured me quite a bit. In other words, not some YouTuber, just some normal reseller out there who has been experiencing the type of issues that I talked about over the last few months. One of those things that I have heard, and there's really been 3 fairly specifics outside of the typical, what I would call complaints. Not that they're illegitimate, they're legitimate, but they're not what I decided to talk about. I did have an open forum, so I decided I'd talk about more of what I thought was more existential than small picture. I wanted the big picture because I'm interested in preserving resellers and reselling and reseller rights for the long term and without fear of banishment, without fear of not having due process. And so I didn't discuss some of the issues that, first of all, I'm not qualified for. You know, if eBay wanted to talk to somebody and disseminate information to get to the masses, well, one, eBay should be able to do that on their own. Although, to be honest with you, they don't have the microphone they could or should on social media. And I believe that is changing in a good way as well. But that's beside the point. Back to those issues that I constantly hear about and that are not those specific issues. One of them that I've been hearing a lot lately is the increases, massive increases for people sometimes who have been selling for a decade or more, who have never had a Vero, who have never had a authentication claim, who have never had a we're reviewing your account claim, or never had an item taken down. And we've always had this, right? There's specific items that we just hear over and over and over again, but they're never accompanied with what I would consider a threat of some sort. They're always accompanied, you know, they're taken down and you're told, hey, this is not allowed or whatever. But it's more than that lately, and it's more items lately. And I've talked about this before. I think this is an issue where eBay would serve itself well to begin to work with resellers. The appearance is, whether it's true or not, and I told them this specifically because I don't know if it's true or not. I hope it's not. But the appearance is that eBay to the seller is being viewed as the enemy by taking these things down, authentication claims, Vero claims, and whatever. And the reality is, in my opinion, that we're actually fighting against 2 other forces here. You know, eBay used to kind of think about a kitchen table. There used to be 3 people sitting at that table every day. It was the seller, eBay itself and the shareholders, and it was the buyer sitting at the table. There's a lot more people sitting at the table and around the table. There's more competitors sitting around the table. You have the government itself sitting at the table in a much bigger way. The implementation of the internet, you know, the sales tax going on internet sales, state to state and all that. You also have the increased, you know, the 1099 coming at the end of the year. You also now have Informed Consumer Act, which in my opinion is a completely backwards political way of dealing with thieves, you know, theft, and with people that are producing things that are inauthentic. And instead of facing it on that end, the burden is coming down from the government, through eBay, sometimes through these outside brands and companies, and the burden is being placed first on eBay, and eBay is passing that burden on to us, the sellers. And I have got way more messages, like 10-fold messages along those lines in just the last 3 months. So that was the first topic I decided to talk about. And I talked about it in 2 ways. But the first way is I believe that eBay dropped the ball, and not just eBay. And you got to understand, it seems like this is happening on eBay, not the other platforms. But the reason it is, in my opinion, is because If you're a brand out there and you want to suppress the secondhand sale of an item, you go after the big dog who is a secondhand seller. That's eBay. Make no mistake about it. If eBay was gone tomorrow, they go after the next big dog. And so that's why we see it more acutely on this platform than we do on any other, which is why I think it's important to fight this now. And me as an individual reseller, I don't have the ability to fight it. I don't have the resources to fight it. eBay does. I think it is in their best interest to partner with resellers, to fight for resellers in these fights, so that this just doesn't continue and becoming a bigger and bigger problem. During the conversation, I proposed 2 ways that I thought eBay could do that. I have to tell you, I think one of the things I said was extremely intriguing. I'm not going to speak for him, but I just got that sense. One of the ways, I'll start with the simple way first. The simple way is when you have companies, and I believe this is occurring, he did not confirm this, but I believe this is occurring. I think there's plenty of anecdotal evidence. Ever since the Informed Consumer Act, this has increased. I probably should let Pepper in. I said no pets this video. We don't have time. That ever since that has been implemented, that this kind of stuff has been increasing, and in my opinion, at times being abused. And so one simple thing you could do is when these things come down, and he did say this, you know, in the past, it's, you know, they make a claim, you just take it down and forget about it, right? It's just done. I think that's the wrong approach. I think economically in the short term, it's the right approach for eBay because they don't want to deal with litigation. They don't want to deal with all that stuff. But to me, when a company sees they can do that, some companies, not all, can abuse that system. You know, companies have a right to protect their own brands as well, but they have to do it lawfully. And we have the right of private property to lawfully resell items we own. And when we have an item taken down with no recourse, with no due process, it seems like it's abusive. And the reason it seems like it's abusive is because it is abusive. It's backwards. There should be innocent until proven guilty. There should be those things. There should be a way to petition or to appeal something, and there's a lacking of that in a big way. And I think not only should that not lack, and for economic reasons they just kind of pass the buck, I think they should fight some of these, especially when there's a track record from certain companies. They should begin to fight them even at high cost, and partnering with individual resellers who have standing because their item was taken down, as does eBay. They have standing as well. They can fight these issues with certain companies that abuse them. If you do that, you remember the old Andy Griffith show, you know, with Barney, and he'd say, you know, when something little would happen, he'd say, nip it in the bud, or it's going to become a big issue. That's what I'm talking about. The other way I think they could do this is the way that they kind of failed at. And I was pretty upfront about it. I think eBay failed, not just eBay. The whole conglomeration of resellers that joined together to go petition this Informed Consumer Act, this is my opinion now. I believe they failed. They got some minor concessions. But the overarching idea that the burden of this stuff should come down on little mom and pop resellers is ridiculous. Many reselling platforms, I don't know all the names, so I don't want to mention. I know Etsy was one. I think OfferUp was one. eBay, of course. Either eBay or Mercari, I can't remember. Went up to lobby against this bill. I don't know if lobby against it or to make concessions for it, whatever the terminology you want to use. But they failed, in my opinion. I mean, this is a bipartisan bill. In what world do we live in where a bipartisan bill like this, nobody agrees on anything up there, and they're going to agree on this, and who's the person that it pinches the most? It pinches me and you in a small way now, but it's obviously increasing from years past. And there's really only been a few changes because of it. And you see eBay having to put a lot of effort and cost into this as well. Think about the cost of the authentication process for shoes, for instance, or for watches. These are huge, huge hurdles. And you want to talk about, you know, using promoted listings and fees going up and stuff. There's added cost to dealing with this. There's added cost to start collecting the sales tax for all of us. There's going to be more added cost if they drop the 1099 level down to 600. That's not to advocate for not paying taxes. That's just to say that all that bookkeeping and accounting has to be done at eBay. And if you know at all about tech companies over the last year, they've all been cutting. All of them have been cutting employees. And my opinion, he didn't say this, is my opinion, is that the cutting of those employees is being replaced by automated systems. And I think that's where a lot of these problems lie. So to fight some of these things is internal. eBay can fight and eBay can change their own systems in order to protect us, or at the very least provide a little more clarity to us in the messages they send us. I told him specifically about the messages that I got, and I mentioned other people who got similar messages. I'm going to talk specifically about those messages in a minute, and where I think that actually these things could and probably already have started to change. But I also want to mention, when I said that I think eBay failed in this, and there's a different strategy I think they should employ, and it'll serve two purposes. So instead of the CEOs, he was the one, I think, who went up to Capitol Hill. I said, you know, how did that go? How did that go? Because you have 50 CEOs from all these companies fighting for this bill in order, in my opinion, not to protect the consumer, but to protect their brand. Make no mistake about that. This bill was not to protect the consumer. It was lobbied for by big companies and big brands in order to protect their brand and to reduce the resale market. I don't care what anybody tells me. That's the fact of the matter. Because why would Home Depot care about somebody being, you know, protected from a reseller on eBay? What do they care? I mean, maybe they do care. I shouldn't say that. But the reality is, this really looks like big brands protecting their own names. And to me, that's as transparent as could possibly be. So instead of CEOs from reselling companies going up there and fighting it, it should have been you going up there and fighting it, because we're the one who are at risk here. eBay should have partnered with us to fight that. And most of us didn't even know it was taking place. I don't know if it would have made a difference, but just imagine the optics of these big brand companies up there fighting for this legislation, and the people fighting against it look like me and you, as opposed to somebody wearing a suit from eBay or from, you know, wherever, Poshmark or Mercari or Etsy. It gives a completely different optic, because that's really what's taking place here. The burden of theft and counterfeit merchandise is coming down on us, and the visual to us when we see things out there, and we see them on eBay itself, of not necessarily counterfeit goods, but cheap goods, Chinese goods, whatever goods you want to talk about, and fakes and people using titles in the wrong way. So I'm willing to admit when I make a mistake, but when you see 8 million people out there doing things that are far more abusive, and then you get a letter that says, hey, we're reviewing your account, or you're suspended for this activity, and it's very punitive, and it's, I don't know if I'd say threatening. It was insulting to me, I have to be honest with you. It was insulting to me. Like, I try to do things right all the time. I might make mistakes from time to time. I might have misjudgments and errors and do things that are kind of borderline sometimes, but my intent is never malicious, and 99% of eBay resellers like us are not malicious, and we should not be treated in a way that makes us guilty until we prove ourselves innocent. It should be the other way around. And I believe he really was interested in that tact of fighting this from a partnership level with eBay and individual resellers, advocating against legislation that will not just hurt eBay, but hurt us. In other words, we both have a common interest here in protecting the right of second sales, essentially. And we've talked about this before. We talked about constitutional law. We talked about that stuff. I'm not going to rehash it. But I think he actually, and I don't want to speak for him, but it seemed to me in the course of the conversation that that was extremely interesting to him. And I think it's some way we can move forward. We can fight together. It gives them a different way to approach what I view as abuses in the system. And it's really not just the government. It's not just the brands. It's the government and the brands working hand in hand. And let's face it, you know, if you're a politician and you have, you know, CEOs from 4 or 5 reselling platforms, and then all the other CEOs and brands, you know, who's got more money, who's got more clout? But it's people like me and you who vote for these folks. So put us up there, fight with us, as opposed to fight for us in a way that's going to fail. And I could talk about this stuff forever. I could make a 4-part video about this thing, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to narrow these last few down here. Clarity is a must. There is very little clarity. And, you know, we can make the argument all day long that, you know, they can't disclose certain things because if they do, then some fraudster is going to be able to do this and get around the rules. Fine. At least we need to find places where we can, where they can increase clarity for resellers, for people who are just common, ordinary folks out there trying to make a buck and having a great time going out and picking treasures and reselling them. There should be more clarity, and there also should be more clarity for the more serious resellers. I gotta be honest with you, and I'm not the one to represent them. You know, I make quite a bit of money in this shed. There are many, many years where I made more money reselling than I did as a high school history teacher, but I'm nowhere near what a lot of folks out there who are listening to this right now. I don't have the expertise in it. I don't want to have the expertise in it. I hate that stuff. I hate the data and the numbers and the stuff. You know, I want to take good pictures, make decent listings, and put a good price on something that somebody wants and make profit. That's what I want to do. I don't want to dig into the data. I can't. I don't know what I'm doing half the time anyways. There are a lot of great resellers out there with serious concerns about clarity and direction. They don't need all the answers. They just need the direction. And then as answers can be given, please give them. So clarity was one of the reasons I wanted to have, one of the things we discussed. And more importantly than that is due process and an appeal. When you get a message that says, don't reply to this, don't do whatever, you know, I mean, come on. I was sitting in a place where I'm thinking, hey, not only does my reselling business at stake here, but I've built a social media business around my reselling. And so all of my income to some degree or another was put at risk. And this kind of goes back to my earlier point. This isn't about eBay or me being a cheerleader for eBay. And guess what? I am a cheerleader for eBay. It's me being a cheerleader for resellers. In general, if eBay starts this fight, makes this fight now, then we avoid having these fights on these other platforms. It's in eBay's best interest to fix all the other stuff that we've talked about. Because if they don't, and Mercari does, or Poshmark does, or whatnot continues to grow, whatever it is, we have options. And I've made a strategic decision. You've seen me do it slowly over time, reluctantly, but slowly over time, to provide myself other outlets to resell. Because if eBay turns into Amazon, I'm out. I'm done. I'm done. If you have to turn in receipts and do all the nonsense and do all the stuff in the rigmarole, and all, I don't want to do it. And a lot of you are Amazon sellers. I'm not insulting that. It's just not for me. It's not what I want to do. So to have, and it's not just me, I got tons of these messages. To have eBay send a message that is bordering on accusing you of fraud of some sort is just ridiculous. Now, there are some fraudsters out there, and of course eBay is going to have to fight against those, and they're going to have to protect the brands, and they're going to have to do all those things. But where we can use common sense and a human being to look at a situation and to provide communication, whatever the cost is, there's a huge cost to being able to have customer service. And you've seen that drop off over the years. I think, and I like the new process. I tried it for me. It's not that new, but, you know, sending a message to eBay through a computer. By the way, all of my personal issues I took care of through traditional means. I did not even take advantage of having this audience with the folks here from eBay. I probably could have. I don't know. Maybe I couldn't have. I didn't ask. And it doesn't solve anything long term. And that's the point of this right here. As far as I know, those strikes are still on my whatever, or the one of them is. One of them is not, because I tried this new system and it worked great. But I get tons of messages from people where it's just not great. They need to create new outlets, new appeal processes. They can streamline it if they want. They can use technology as all they want. But this way of a loop that you see, it's not unique to eBay. We all know this. You know, press one, do this, and it just goes in a circle. It's ridiculous. I think that is money well spent if they can strategically spend it. There needs to be a way, somehow, some way, shape, or form, for eBay to create a system where everyday common resellers who have good intentions, clearly they have track records of good intentions, should not be threatened to, and I'm not saying they're threatened, I'm just saying they should not feel like they're threatened to have their accounts banned and their primary income source destroyed. That gives me another point here. You know, there needs to be due process. But the other point is we should all be working in our own best interest in protecting our own, I don't even know how, our own business, I guess is the way to say it. We should be strategic about it. We should not put all our eggs in one basket. We should have a contingency plan if things like this were to occur. But I think most of us, I would have never started doing List Perfectly and selling on multiple platforms. I would have never done that had I not felt the need to do that. And I do feel the need to do that. That's where I'm at right now. But at the same time, I'm not giving up on eBay. Most of us out there, almost everybody who listens to this show and are resellers, the great majority of their items sell, despite all of the problems. Still, they sell more on eBay. And I know there's a lot of you who have niched down and only do certain things, and that doesn't apply to everybody. It's not what I'm saying. But it is the best platform still for me, and it's not even close. It's in my best interest to, if I can, in any way, shape, or form, do whatever I can to make eBay a better place, I suppose. It's done tremendous good for me. I'll be happy to cheerlead for eBay for free. Absolutely for free. They're not going to pay me a dime because it's in my best interest to have a healthy eBay platform. And I hope, and I think, I honestly think, at least some people in eBay, they believe the same way we believe. Now, there's all kinds of interests. There's a lot more people sitting at that table now. And so it's not an easy act to kind of walk down that tightrope. But I think some people at least want to do that, because if we don't, we're going to be all moving to another platform. And then who's to say that that one's not going to have the same issues? I think it's time to make some of those fights right now. I want eBay to succeed. If eBay succeeds, we're going to succeed. And there are issues in between all those things. I get it. I'm not just saying, hey, it's all pie in the sky. What I'm saying is it's in our best interest. So actually, I'm going to do something right now that a lot of people will hate, but I don't care. By the way, on a really quick note, and I wasn't going to say this, but I feel like I should say this. I found this gentleman to be very intelligent, very kind, very cordial, and very authentic. I don't know. Maybe I'm not a good judge of character, but that's the way I found this gentleman to be. I heard something on the Reseller Information Network the other day that I thought was brilliant, and it was Leroy's idea, Blood, Sweat, and Sell. Now, these guys right here, you've heard me talk about them often. All of them put food on the table primarily through eBay sales. All of them sell on, actually I take it back, 3 of the 4 sell on multiple platforms. And 2 of them sell a lot on multiple platforms. So these are the guys that depend on this for a living, and they're good resellers, far better than me. And there's some out there that are far better than them. Sorry, Chernock and you guys, you know. But I'm sure there's better resellers out there than you guys, but they're terrific. And Leroy said something that just never really hit me before. We've given out gift cards and Amazon gift cards to all kinds of folks. And this can apply not just to eBay, but it could apply to if you're a Mercari seller, a Poshmark seller. I'm not going to give out a gift card to somebody from another online platform if I can give out one this year for Christmas from eBay. Or maybe I'm going to go, I don't know, to have Mercari and Poshmark cards, we might give those away too. And I think that that is an interesting way. You might call me a cheerleader. I've already told you, yes, I'm a cheerleader. I want eBay to succeed. I want eBay to fix every problem they have. They're never going to fix every problem. I'm not ridiculous here. But I think that they could do quite a few things to not only build up the seller side, but to begin to build up the buyer side as well, because buyers are the key to this. We all want buyers. eBay wants buyers. We want buyers. So I'm going to give away eBay gift cards this year. And I'm not just going to give them away on this show right here. I'm going to give them away on other shows, on other platforms. I might even give one away on Whatnot. What do you think of that? And I'm going to give these away to people in my life at Christmas time as well. And I hope maybe some of you out there go ahead and adopt it. I think Leroy's doing hashtag give a eBay gift card for Christmas. Or hashtag buy vintage, or hashtag whatever. We can also partner if eBay partners with us. And that means we're seeing actual concrete steps. We're not all going to agree with everything. I don't agree with everything. I hate promoted listings. I hate them. I despise them. I feel like it's an unlevel playing field which is being bought, which, whatever. I mean, it's not like it's unique to eBay. It's happening everywhere. And there's actual good reason behind some of it because of the way advertising is being done. But I don't want to get into that. But my point is, I don't have a problem cheerleading for eBay. They don't have to give me a dime. I want eBay to succeed, and most of you out there want eBay to succeed as well. And to be honest with you, they are succeeding at a much greater rate than some of these other platforms. It just seems like it's not the way it used to be. And I hope that they can figure out a way to partner with us. I'm not naive. I'm not Pollyanna here. I know there's a lot of challenges, but there's no sense in being an Eeyore and just being woe is me. There's actions that we can take. Whether that's being, not putting all our eggs in the eBay basket, making sure that we're out there, making sure that these other platforms are I don't know about being held accountable, whatever you want to call it. But at least we need to fight to keep eBay a healthy place or to make them more healthy. And so I'm giving away this gift card. So, I don't know, what should we say? Let's say hashtag, what did I say? Leroy said, hashtag give an eBay gift card for Christmas. How about that? And then maybe somebody will get it and be like, oh, I've never bought anything on eBay before. And you got a new buyer all of a sudden. Or if you're a Poshmark seller, find a way to do that on Poshmark or Mercari or whatnot, or whatever you sell on Etsy. There's other platforms, Grailed, all those platforms. The more platforms that can stay healthy and help us in this fight against all the other forces that are coming against us, I think is a platform that we need to pay attention to. Thank y'all. I know I talk a lot. You guys are amazing to me. I know this video doesn't make everybody happy. There'll be a lot of criticism down below, and I can take it. I want to resell, and I want to resell for the rest of my life. And if it takes stuff like this, if it takes a conversation as a starter to start it so that they can talk to other people who are doing it differently, they can talk to some of you out there and make one improvement, then we're better than we were 3 months ago. So thank y'all. I appreciate you, and I can't wait to see you next.